Remember when Saturday morning cartoons were everything? Waking up knowing you didn't have to go to school that day and that there were going to be some awesome cartoons to watch over a big bowl of cereal? Who could forget one of the best Saturday morning cartoons of all time? The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm sure you can hear that old opening theme song even now, right? Well, listen for yourself if not, and revel in that classic jam that got us all hyped for the next bad guy of the week. If you haven't heard the news yet, let me be the first to tell you that famous comedy actor Seth Rogen has officially announced his very own Ninja Turtles movie. It's titled Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, and it's officially set to release in August of this year. The artwork looks on point, judging by the Twitter post alone, and with Seth Rogen at the helm, I can only hope the comedy will be on point as well. So then why does the mere mention of this new Turtles movie put a bad taste in our mouths?
So when you say things like that, it's weird.
Well, to answer that question, we'll have to dive into the sewers where the Ninja Turtles movies of recent years have all gone to dwell after repeated failures at the box office. Remember those two films directed by Michael Bay? The first one was oh so cleverly named Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, fitting for what was supposed to be an expert reboot in the modern age of CGI and explosions. This film is sitting at a whopping 21% on Rotten Tomatoes, with a 4.2 out of 10 average rating based on over 160 reviews. Not exactly the phoenix rising from the ashes that Ninja Turtles fans, both new and old, were looking for. In fact, when I think of live-action Ninja Turtles movies, I don't think of these stinkers at all. But they're worth mentioning if only for the hubris involved in their creation. The next to be released before its subsequent fall would be the Michael Bay sequel. This time, at least, it was given a subtitle, and it was called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Yeah, we might have been better off if it had just remained in the shadows. There's also the animated film released back in 2007 that was simply titled TMNT. Despite being better than the Michael Bay reboots, this one did not recapture our childhoods either, and not even America's ass Chris Evans and Buffy the Vampire Slayer Sarah Michelle Gellar could save this one from a 35% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Don't worry though, we're through the worst of the films thankfully, so now we can talk about the OGs, the original live-action Ninja Turtle movies. And while these are also flawed in their own right, they hold up surprisingly well when compared to the CGI-dominated disasters that we just talked about. First up is the very first movie to ever give us the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in live action. And what should it be titled? Simply Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course. But unlike the Michael Bay reboot, this one was making history and breaking barriers in cinema at the time. It was campy, it was silly, and most of all, it was totally awesome. From the pizza, to the one-liners, to the fun and exciting fight scenes, this movie really nailed it. This is the closest we've ever come to recapturing that original 80s cartoon on a Saturday morning feeling in Ninja Turtles movies. You can definitely have too much of a good thing though, and unfortunately the sequels would prove this, as they, film by film, lost their campy soul and devolved into more and more convoluted plot lines. Now this is less true of the 1991 movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of the Ooze. It still managed to provide a fun and engaging adventure for the Turtles and their human friends. While this movie lacked the hot-headed, hockey-stick-wielding vigilante and anti-hero ally of the Turtles, one Mr. Casey Jones, it still made up for it with some out-of-this-world antagonists, compliments of Jim Henson's Creature Shop. We got Taka and Razor, who fit right in opposite of our titular turtle heroes. They were silly, but menacing, enough for a movie like this anyway, and while played for laughs quite often, there was enough threat there to make them fun bad guys. They were no Bebop and Rocksteady, but it could have been worse, for sure. And finally, there's the worst of the original trio of movies, unoriginally just called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Wow. Looking back, that was really pretty lazy considering they had a solid subtitle for the second movie. I mean, why not the third? Anyway, this movie was a dud just like its name. Again, compare it to the Michael Bay reboot movies if you want, and it'll seem like a fantastic movie. But if we're being honest here, there's nothing that this movie does better than the first two, and there's plenty that it does worse. Basically, the story goes something like, an ancient feudal lord in Japan is berating his son Kenshin, no, not that Kenshin, for disgracing their family name. Kenshin is just a nice guy though, and says that his dad is the one disgracing the family, by being a real warmonger, mind you. Well, the two part ways, and Kenshin goes to mope in a temple when he finds a magical scepter. Yeah, what a convenient plot device. Anyway, upon reading the inscription on it, it causes Kenshin to swap places in time with April O'Neil of all people. Oh no. While this initial premise is campy enough to work, and having April appear in the Japanese feudal lord's son's clothes is worth a laugh, doesn't save the movie. The film then creates another obstacle in the way of a 60-hour time limit. Yeah, they have 60 hours to get April back before the time scepter just stops working. The turtles have to rescue April from the past before that. Why? I mean, who knows? Anyway, long story short, the movie ends with Splinter cheering up Michelangelo with his best Elvis impression. Not the worst movie ever, but definitely the worst of these three for sure. The movies weren't the only Ninja Turtles media to come up short though. Unfortunately, the games have long since been dealing with a plethora of failed releases as well. Thankfully, that has changed in recent years, and I do mean recent years too. Not unlike the lackluster movies we've seen over the last 10 years, Ninja Turtles games have also failed to deliver in any big ways since the days of the Super Nintendo and the arcade. Again, with a few exceptions. There have been so many lackluster games that it's honestly like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles suffered from Sonic syndrome for way too long. Diving in a little further, we'll work our way back in time from the latest Ninja Turtles releases. This one was actually a win for Turtles fans, contrary to my rant just now. I mean, the Cowabunga collection was definitely a step in the right direction. This is primarily due to the fact that it included practically every classic Turtles game all in one neat little package. So while it had some real stinkers, the collection gives us all the goods that we could want. And before we got this radical collection, we actually got another solid and more ambitious Turtles game earlier in 2022 with Shredder's Revenge. This game had an entirely new story, solid and colorful art, and most importantly, it had all the classic characters that we love. You could even play as April here, or Master Splinter. I don't think many fans of the original 1980s cartoon were complaining when this game arrived last June. For all the good and bad, there hasn't been a game to this day that could top the original Super Nintendo title that both set and raised the bar. Turtles in Time had to be the best. It had a simple premise, the controls were simple too, but it nailed that 1980s Turtles feel better than anything before or since. You had 2-player co-op, which admittedly was a downgrade from the classic, and also fantastic arcade Turtles game, but what it lacked in multiplayer, it made up for with varied and challenging stages. I mean, you're going through time, trying to save the day, and bashing all the Foot Clan bad guys that you can get your turtle hands on. And what more could we ask for? Despite my love for the King of Dragons, and my personal connection to it, I would never say it's a better beat 'em up than Turtles in Time. This game had it all. So yeah, I have high hopes that are definitely tempered by the bad we've seen with Ninja Turtle releases these past 10 years. However, recent games like Shredder's Revenge have given me a glimmer of faith that maybe we'll start to see movies actually made for the fans too. Besides, Seth Rogen is a pretty funny guy. He might be able to deliver on this. Anyway, what's your favorite Turtles movie? Or game? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more content every Sunday.